dark in here. My setup's not really good right now. I got lots of papers in the way where I normally stay. And I'm in my wrong chair, so I have to hunch forward, and that's a problem too. Alright, so today is Know Thyself and the author. So we're featuring the author today. And the author that I'm featuring is S.M. Stirling. So, he's written lots of books. He's written books with David Drake, which is the general. He's done some alternate history stories. I think one that features a comet, and where the half of the northern hemisphere is impacted by this comet. But that's not the books that and he's done some books early on with other writers that I knew. Sorry, I'll be moving a lot. Sometimes my ankles and legs get really overly itchy. My face, of course, but sometimes parts of my body just do. And last night when I went to bed, it hurt to have my socks on because it hurt my ankles. I don't know why. My feet always feel like they're swelled, but they're not. So it's just weird. Anyway, so the stories that I like by him are from the Emberverse. Now, I've also read the Change series, which is connected to the Emberverse. I don't know why he calls it the Emberverse, but that's what it's called. So, also known as the Changed World, which is interesting because you have the Change, the Nantucket series. Now, that's the series I read first, the Nantucket series, where the island of Nantucket in Massachusetts, or is it Maine? I think it's Massachusetts, though, just all of a sudden disappears from the world we know and is sent back into time, I'd say, in probably, they say what it is. I can't remember. Okay, it's called The Island in the Sea of Time. And that's the first book of the series, because then there's Against the Tide of Years, On the Ocean of Eternity, and Blood Wolf. What I haven't read Blood Wolf. I've read the first three. And they came out the first one came out in 1998. And they get sent back into time, but it didn't, 1250 BC. So, back in time into the Bronze era. And it takes along some people on a Coast Guard boat, and then they get into a war over the island. So they have to learn to survive in the Bronze age, without electricity, without all those other things. They have to learn how to survive. It's a really kind of interesting book. There is, like his Ember series, there's a suggestion of magical divine intervention, of course, but never actually specifically points out what that is. So then I read those first, really enjoyed them, and went looking for other books by him, and came across the Emberverse, which was not called that at the time. It was called the Change series. So I'm not, like I said, if you look it up, you look up Emberverse, it pops up. If you look the Change series by S.M. Stirling, it pops up. He has his own website, which I will put up I'll put it up, and you guys can check it out if you're interested. I liked the Change series. Was interesting because I started reading it when I lived in California. Excuse me. It was about Oregon. My throat really is bothering me, so if my voice sounds funny, that's why. So really, my throat, face, I'm tired, my head hurts. Oh, wait, you have fibromyalgia. So it all hurts. And what happens is, it's really kind of a very cool kind of story, because it bounces between different people. You have the main character, the hero of the story, I guess, which is a guy named Mike. I don't remember his last name. I could look it up, but I'm not going to look it up. And he is a pilot for hire, and he's hired by this family of this industrial guy who's rich, to go out to Montana, and they from Oregon to Montana, and so he's in the air when the change happens. Now, never through the whole stories do they ever explain the change. All they say, everyone has their own idea. What happens is that the law of physics is changed. So gunpowder doesn't work, so you can't have guns. Electricity doesn't work, so you can't have electricity, per se. I mean, you can, but you can't have it like they have it. I mean, you can make things work to a degree, I think, if I'm right. Everything's very medieval style. It's all very medieval. And then they introduce the guy who is kind of the evil bad guy in the story, but that changes over a period of time. In that he wants to rule the whole world. He wants everything, and he's very interested in medieval times. I can't remember the particular king that he favors, but he is part of the SCA, which is the Society for Creative Anachronism. I think that's how they say it, which is a cosplay. It's one of the original cosplay groups for that time period. If you want to know more about the SCA, I've been in it once or twice. I've joined and then kind of went along on my own for other things, because they are set. You pick a time period that it's set, mostly medieval style, and they have kingdoms, and you join those kingdoms. And then they have battles, fake battles, and things like that. A guy that I chatted with for a lot on Facebook, he is a fencer who's a part of the SCA. I was part of a group down in California for a little bit, but I just didn't have the time to put into making a costume and doing all that for that. When I was younger, I was in a group. When my daughter was small, I joined the Lombos for a little bit, but I didn't have the money to... Money is a big factor sometimes. It's not a major factor if you get a good group, and so you do a lot of fencing, and they have wars. So this guy, I can't remember his name either, he's in Portland, and he changes Portland into this medieval land, and he fights to go across Oregon, both all around, to control areas of it. And him and Mike, the pilot, the first book is about them rebuilding, meeting people and rebuilding. And Mike creates the bear killers. Though if you read the story, he doesn't really create it. It's the people with him. And then the third person that is really the main character that you follow in the first book, you start out, is Jubilee Mackenzie, and she's really an interesting character who's based on a Renaissance style character, Celtic music, Wiccan, and clans. And so she kind of gets the gist of what's going on very early and takes her covenant with her, her witch covenant, and they go to her. She had some land that actually is not far from where I live now, which is kind of cool. So like I said, I started reading it in California. I moved to Springfield, Oregon, and found out that it was this area that S.M. Stirling kind of does his storyline. It's Portland, Corvallis, which is the university, and they create their own state there, Corvallis does. And Pendleton, which creates like a rancher's kind of thing, because that's like out of Bend, near Bend. And then the Mackenzie clan, which is further north from me, up along the Mackenzie River. So it's very interesting. You get to read, you get to look at it and go, oh wow, I live here now. And I find it interesting that not a lot of Oregon people have read the book, because I always like to read books from where I'm at. Another book, not by S.M. Stirling, by David Bryan, is called The Postman, and that is also taken in the time up along I-5 from California, Oregon, because he comes in along from the north, from the east, and comes in and he meets people along I-5. That's a much older book. I think it was in the 80s. But it's a very good book, too. They did make a movie of it. Movie not, but still, it's a good book. It's a good movie. The movie's okay. As is all movies, not exactly like the book. I would love for them to make a TV series of the Change series. I think that would be absolutely great. Because it'd be easy to do, because all they're missing is, it's kind of post-apocalyptic when they first start. You meet a lot of cannibals. They have dead zones. California is a big giant dead zone because just tribes of people eating each other. Kind of see that, and all wilderness and stuff. So it'd be really hard to live in those areas. It really centers on homesteading style, having, those preppers kind of style, if you're really into that whole thing. I think the most interesting part to me, too, is he's very into sensory writing. He writes a lot about food. The food is really, he takes really fine care to explain about how the bread is different, how the food is different. He describes it, whenever he describes it, I'm reading it, I always start getting hungry. I'm like, I want a sandwich, because he talks about, how they make the bread from scratch, and how they make the, all this stuff, and the work that goes into it, and stuff like that, and how they farm, and how he makes a very kind of, because a lot of people, especially preppers, which I am kind of a prepper. I don't have a big storage unit full of stuff, but I have a lot of books, and I've done a lot of things to learn how to take care of yourself if something was to happen. And I'll tell you, the number one thing that you need to do is have water. I mean, a lot of people oversee that. They worry about guns, and they worry about food, and they worry about all that other stuff. But your number one first thing would be water. Of course, food would be second of that. And third would be protecting yourself. And sometimes protecting would be protecting your water source. I'd be lucky here, just like they were in the Change series, because I'm near the river. If I had to, I could hike out to the river, and you could use the water there. The problem is that our bodies are so used to filterized water that we would get very sick very quickly if we didn't figure out a way to ionize our water and slowly figure out how to filter it. Though there are now quite a few very interesting websites that teach you how to make homemade filters. So you'd probably be all right. A lot of people would want to stay in their homes because that's the comfort zone, and with the hopes that things would come back on. And it's interesting in the books, he really kind of touches on that, because there's the bear killers have a yearly holiday where they set gunpowder on fire to see if it's going to work like it's supposed to, and every year it doesn't, so it becomes a holiday. And those who are born after the change, or really really young when the change happened, kind of don't understand the significance of it, which he kind of explores as well. He does really, really great in his characters. They're really easy to like or dislike. But the first three books are about Mike and the setting up of Portland, and the Bear Killers and the Clan Mackenzie. That's what it's about. And then the Clan of Mackenzie and the Bear Killers get together, and the next set of books are from that. And then all about the children and people after that time period. So, one of the reasons I enjoy is because, like I said, I'm a prepper, and then also because I'm standing in the area that he decided would be a great place to write a story. Now, the Nantucket series, of course, is in Nantucket Island, which is, I know a couple people from there, too, and they've read the books and said it's pretty, on spot. I'm sorry. So, but how does that affect me? It affects me that when I read the books, at the time, I had already been a prepper for a very long time. I've gone through periods of time where I stock up water and I stock up food, and I'm like, it's not going to happen. I mean, I was afraid when I was a kid it was going to happen. And then when I was in high school, maybe it was before I started high school, there was a nuclear accident that occurred on the railroads near where I lived. All the missiles, they were transporting missiles, and the missiles fell, and then they had a big cleanup, and there was a big fear, and everybody was like, "Wow, we're all gonna die." And then I had these dreams when I was a kid about the world, the world exploding, because I'm an overactive reader and overactive stuff. So I was always fearful that a nuclear world kind of thing was going to happen, and that we needed to be prepared. Because one of the things he touches upon in his books is that, are we really prepared as human beings to be able to survive if we didn't have, our comfort zones, our technology, the things that do stuff for us? How would we survive? Now, maybe our children would survive, but how would we survive with crops that aren't protected against, creatures, water that's not filtered, food that's not made to be healthy or whatever? It's interesting because people talk about being bored now. I meet a lot of people, or people online and stuff, who say they're bored. And I think that you have all this stuff you could do. How could you be bored? Can you imagine a world where, another one that comes to mind is Reign of Fire, which I might talk about, is that whole wake up, and have to work at surviving. And that's all you could do. You wouldn't be able to live. Live is, to me, is like, doing your video games or going to work or stuff like that. I got children that are having a hard time, apparently. That's why I keep pausing it. Anyway, so I think that's where I'll call it quits today. I'm not really feeling well. I'm not really in a position that's comfortable right now. Next week is What Does the Vixen Say, of course, and I'm doing some change on the scheduling because my controllers are really bad for my consoles, so I can't play my older games at the moment. So we're going to do a lot of PS4 and Xbox One games for a while. And I've been working on animation stuff. I know I say that a lot, but I have. And when it comes out, y'all will be like, it'll be so short. And you'll be like, why did it take you a year and a half to do it? But I'm already well over 500 frames. So that kind of tells you why it takes so long. There's a lot of pre-setup. I'm going to learn how to work some studio stuff. Boo Boy's in the background. I don't know if you guys can hear him or not, but he's a little angry right now because he's not supposed to come downstairs when I'm doing the vlog. But I was late today. But anyway, so that's it. I'll catch you all on the flip side. I'm out of here. Peace. 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 And think about it. Would you be able to survive if the apocalyptic world was to pop up and you were there?